Often when we create queries for other people, it becomes difficult because the parameters might change every time that person runs the query. Let's take a date for example. When they run a query, the date may be hard-coded into the design of the query that it says, from the 1st of January to the 30th of June. But the next time the query is run, the user may actually want a different date range. So we can't actually have them going into the design of the query and changing the parameters because they're not necessarily au fait with access. What we want to do is create a query that pops up and asks them questions. And when it asks them questions, these become the criteria for the query. Let me show you what I mean. Let's start by creating a new query. I'm going to the Create tab in the ribbon, and in the Queries group, I'll choose Query Design. I'm going to add the table TBL class, and add and close. And I'll just stretch it out. Now the information they want to see is the class ID, the class name, the instructor ID, basically everything. So what I'm going to do is double click TBL class, which selects all the fields, and then drag them into the first field of the grid. Now here I would like to say that each time they run this query, it asks them what term would you like. So instead of saying term 1 or term 2 and creating a query for all 4 terms, instead in square brackets I'll add the criteria, what term would you like? And close square bracket. You can phrase what's in the square brackets in any way that you want, but let's just show you what this does. If I view my query, whenever the person runs the query, it's going to ask them, what term would you like? And so if I type a 1 and press OK, it gives them just the term 1 records. If I went back to design and viewed the query again, what term would you like? And I said 2 and OK, then it just gives me the term 2 records. This is called a parameter query, where it asks them questions and they become the parameters. I'd like to save this query, so I'm going to hit the Save button on my Quick Access toolbar and call it QRY Parameter 1. And click OK. Now I'd like to change the design of this query. So I'm going back to Design View. I'm not only going to ask them what term would they like, but now I'm going to ask them what year they would like. So I'm going to add a second parameter. In square brackets, I'll put square bracket, what year would you like? Close square bracket. And again, you can phrase it in any way you want. So sometimes we want to ask them more than one question. If I was to view the results by hitting my view bar to the far left of my ribbon, the first question comes up, what term would you like? 1 and OK. What year would you like? 2009 and OK. And those are the term 1 2009 records. I'd like to save this query as a different name. So I'm going to press the shortcut key F12, which is Save As. And I'll save it as QRY Parameter 2. And I've created a second query. And this appears in my navigation pane. Now I'd like to get into the design of this query and modify it again and save it as parameter 3. Instead of asking them what term, I'll delete that, and what year, I'll delete that. I'm now going to ask them for a cost range. And I might just stretch this so you can see clearly. I'll put greater than equal to, and instead of putting like a number like 100, in square brackets I'll put list classes from what cost? Close bracket. And less than equal to, square bracket, to what cost? Close bracket. Alright, let me just stretch this so you can see clearly. So this is greater than equal to whatever number they enter and less than equal to whatever number they enter. So let's try it. If I hit the View button to run this query, list classes from what cost? 100. Enter. To what cost? 200. Enter. And those are the classes that have a cost between 100 and 200. And that could also be applied to a date. You could say list classes that started from what date, and they'd enter it, and ended on what date, and they'd enter it. I'll go back to design. I'd like to say this is parameter 3, so I'm going to press the function key F12, and I'll give it the name QRY parameter 3, so I don't lose parameter 1 and 2, and OK. Now I'd like to create a fourth query based on this as well. So I'm going to get rid of this particular criteria, and now I want to ask them to enter the class name. Now if they get asked to enter the class name, they have to know the whole name of the class, thermodynamics theory for example, and they have to spell it exactly correctly. So what I prefer to do, instead of going what is the name of the class, instead of doing this, because when they view this, if they don't type it correctly, thermotheory, they'll get no results. So I'll go back to the design and I'll ask them for part or all of the name of the class. So here I'd like to put like space, double quote, asterisk, double quote, ampersand, and instead of what is the name of the class, oops, that should be a space. No, that should be an ampersand, but that should be an asterisk. So like, double quote, asterisk, double quote, ampersand, square bracket, and in here I'm going to put enter all or part of the class name. Close square bracket, ampersand, double quote, asterisk, double quote. So this is going to be like doing asterisk, the asterisk, except it's going to be a parameter. So when you view this, if I type the, anything with the in the class name will be given. So I'll go OK. And that includes thermodynamics theory. If we go back to view, and we view it again, and this time I say SC and OK, then that's quantum science. If I go back to view and then view it again, if I ask for everything that had an E in it and OK, then that's pretty much all of them. So instead of having to know the whole name of the class, they can enter part of it or all of it. So if they wanted every class that had database in it, I'll go view, I'll type database, and any records with the word database in the class name is returned. I'd like to save that query as QRY parameter 4, so I'll hit the function key F12 and I'll name it QRY parameter 4. And OK. And so I've created 4 parameter queries. If I close this query, if I double click the first one, parameter 1, I just say I want term 1, there's the results. If I double click QRY parameter 2, I'll say term 1 in the year 2009, and there's the results. If I double click parameter 3, I'll say I want between 150 and 250, and there's 3 records. And lastly here, the 4th one, I'll just put science, and those are the records with the word science in their name. So parameter queries are very, very good. Instead of trying to create a query for every possible parameter that the user would want.